Welcome back, developers. Today we are diving into a real-world example of using custom middleware to authenticate users before accessing controller action methods in .NET 8 Web API. Whether you are securing your API endpoint or enhancing your application strategy, this tutorial will give you practical insight and hands-on experience. Stay tuned as we explore the power of custom middleware and how it can streamline your user authentication process. I have already made a video on how to create custom middleware using request delegate and using the iMiddleware interface. I have put the link in this video description, so if you haven't watched that video, you can go ahead and watch that. That video gives you more insight on what middleware is and how to use it, how to create a middleware which has the request delegate or which implement the iMiddleware interface. With this video, we are creating a real-world example with this. So this also gives you more insight on how to use this custom middleware. Alright, so let me just brush you through what middleware is. Middleware is the context of .NET that is in Web API, and it refers to software components that are assembled into an application pipeline to handle requests and responses. If I talk about requests and responses, I'm talking about an HTTP request and HTTP responses. Each component in the pipeline can perform operations before and after invoking the next component in the pipeline. Middleware components can handle various tasks such as authentication, login, request processing, and response formatting. So when you have your API created, you have controllers, isn't it? Now, before a request comes to the controller, you can create a middleware which is going to intercept the request before it gets to the controller. So you can make a check in there. You can create a custom logic to check the context of the HTTP request before accessing it or accessing your action method. And even after the method has processed the request, you can also intercept it and also format it before it returns to the user. That is what middleware is about. Then the question is, why use middleware? For separation of concerns purpose, you can use middleware. It helps you to separate different concerns of your application, such as authentication, login, and error handling. You can create a middleware for each of them. Alright, aside from that, you can also reuse the middleware in various scenarios. So let's say you have one middleware, you can use it in another controller. You can also create it in the form of maybe a class, whereby you can use it in another application as well. So it is reusable. Yes, you can create a middleware and be using it all over in many applications. This is very useful when working with microservices. Okay, so that's okay. If you want to if you want to extend further to this, then check that video out and check the video description. You have it in there. Now, this is what we are going to do today. Let's say our API here has an endpoint whereby this endpoint is protected. Now, before you can access this endpoint, you must first create an account with us. After creating an account, you must log in. Now, when you log in, we are going to issue maybe a token to you. And that token, we are going to give you a specific key and a specific token that you must append it to your request. So before you access our action method, we make sure that you have a header section known as what we're going to assign to you, and now a token that we give it up to you. In case you do have this requirement, then we're going to allow you to access this. This is very useful scenarios when creating a lot of applications. It could be e-commerce app, it could be any application at all that you want to implement your custom authentication. You don't want to rely on the ASP.NET Core default authentication scheme. You want to create your own, and with the help of custom middleware, you can achieve this. So let's see, by end of this, you may have some insight in implementing custom authentication using custom middleware. As usual, I have my web API project created, and I believe you've seen that. So pause the video and also create your own. That is the default project with the default template that you can see over here. I haven't touched it. Yes, I haven't touched it. So here, after we have created this, we need to install packages because we're going to implement real database storage. So we want to implement SQLite. we need to install SQLite package, we need to install the EF core, and also EF core.2, so we can it can assist us in performing database migration. So let's go in there and install these packages. So I click on Solution Explorer, then we go to Dependencies, and in here I click on Manage NuGet Packages, and let's try to install these packages. So from the Browse tab, I can type in the EF core, and in here, let's search for that and install this package. So you install this EF core. Now when we are done, we're going to install tools and our SQLite as well. So let's apply. So while this is done, we need to install tools. So can we have tool here? Yes, we have it. Let's install this package as well. Then lastly, we install the SQLite, and that is a database management software. So we have to install this too. So we have 3 packages for this application. Right, so now that you have all these packages installed, we can go ahead and rebuild the solution to make sure everything is intact and is working as expected. Now that we have this set, let's go in there and create our connection string in the apsettings.json. You know, when using SQLite, connection string is very simple. All that you need to do here is to create your, so let's have our connection strings. Then in our connection strings, maybe I need to add this. Let's add the default. And now with this, we want to have it as data source. And let me add YouTube SQLite db.db. So that is the database in here that I want to create. So after I'm done with this, that is all. Let's go in there and start to create our models. And now these models are what you're going to be using. So let me create a folder to this. And now let's name this folder as models. So that is models. Now in this models folder, we want to first create a class. And now this class, you're going to name it as user, because user must create an account, register, and in the form of registration, we want to organize it. So that's the reason why we're creating this. So we can create a DB set of this. Now with this, we need just 3 properties, and that is what we're using for this purpose. We have the ID, we have the email, and we have the password. This is what we need. So let's save that. Aside from this, we need to also create a token. Because with this, I want to keep tokens. So maybe we can add tokens in here, and as soon as the user logs in, we want to get one of the tokens and give it to the user to keep it, and add it to the header anytime you want to make requests. So we can keep track of this token. We can check it in our middleware and see that the token that the user is coming in, we do have it in our database. If not, then we're going to return an authorize. This sounds good, isn't it? So let's do that. So let's add another class in here. And now this is token. Now this token has only 2 properties. And that is an ID and a value. The value, it is a key itself that you're going to issue to the user. Okay, so now that we have this, we can go ahead and create a folder, name it as data, which is going to handle our AppDB contest. So let's create a folder in here, and that is data folder. Now this data folder, we can go ahead and then create a class. And now the class is going to be AppDB contest. So I click on the data folder, go to add, and I'll add a new class of it. Give it a name. Well, I have mine as AppDB contest. Now in that, this has to inherit from a DB contest, and this contest is going to come from the EF core package that we have installed. So DB contest, and maybe control period, we need to include the EF core package that we installed. Aside from that, let's create constructor, and in that we create a DB set for this. So we create our constructor, that's the AppDB contest. We pass in the option of AppDB, which inherit from the base of this DB contest. We're going to create a DB set, which is going to be the table name for this, and our column names are going to be created based on the model that we have created in here. Okay, so we have also this set. Now what's the next thing to do? We need to register our connection strings in the program.cs file. Since we are using only one database, we need to register only one connection. So in case you have multiple, I've made a video on how to connect multiple databases to single web API. And maybe check the video description. I'll also put it in there. You can watch it and know what is going on. Right, so now we have this. We include our AppDB context. And then here we specify the SQLite. We want to grab the connection from the app setting that we created. Good. So now that this is set and done, we can rebuild this project and I'll perform migration here and I'll check it out. So let's wait for the building to get built, then we see the way forward. So did yours also build? Now you can see I have one succeeded. Mine is built successfully. What of yours? Do you have it done? Good. Okay, so let's assume you have it. It's working as mine. Let's go in there and perform migration. So click on Package Manager Console, then add migration. Then give it any name of your choice. I'll give it first, because that's the first time that we are migrating. After this file has been created, we're going to update the database to create a database for us. Let's update the class itself in here. So update database. And now we're going to create a database for us. Since you're using an SQLite, the database is going to be added to this project. So we can have all in one. Good. We have it set in here. That's great. So now that we have this, what is the next thing that we're going to do? Let's go ahead and create our controller. Now in this controller, let's have the first authentication or maybe auth controller. So in the controller folder, we can create one in here. And our name is as authentication controller. Go for the API, empty one. And the name here is auth controller. And now with this auth controller, what are we doing? We first need to inject our AppDB context. That is a context class that we just created. So in here, we can have access to our two databases. That is the user and our token. The first method here is going to allow the user to register. But before that, I want us to create a simple method here that's going to check if user is available. Now this method is going to be used by both the login and the register. So is user already available? Yes, you pass in the email because you want to check. And here we return if it's available, we want to return true if it is not false. So from our first method or our first endpoint that you want to create here, it is register. You know, I did not create a service for this. Since this contains a minimal code, that's the reason why I made it here. In case you have an extended code, then you can actually go ahead and create a service and integrate it or inject it in here. Okay. Now we need to install this package. I nearly forgot that. That is we want to encrypt the user's password. So we need to install this bcrypt.net. So that is the package name. Let's go to our package manager console. So that's the dependency, I think so. So we go to a dependency. Right click on it. Then let's install this package. So that is a bcrypt. Now bcrypt.net. So that is the package, and now let's get this package installed. So we having, I think, 4 packages, not 3. Yes, 4 packages. So let's see, now this has been installed. Let's go back to the auth controller, and now you see we have it set. So all that we're going to do here is we want to check if the user here already exists. We want to return this user already created. In case it is not, then you want to encrypt the password and now add it to the database. This is very simple thing. Return created as the status code of what, 200. That is an OK. Now the next one here is, what if in case I want to log in? Now I have to create an account. And after creating an account, I have to log in so I can get access to my token. And now anytime I want to make a call to another controller, then I have to use the token in the header, isn't it? So let's see, how do I log in? How do I get my token? And that's very simple. You can see we have this method here as login. And in there you can see we are calling the same method, but here we are negating it. So we are saying if it does not exist, then I want to return user not found. In case it does, we want to verify the password. So you provide the test password, and I provide the hash password in the database. So we could see we are making a search out of this, and now getting the password. In case they do not match, this is going to return a boolean. So in case it is false, then return that. Okay, but in case it is, then what are you going to do? So credentials. So in case it returns true, then you want to get all the tokens in there. You want to get a count. In case it is 0, it means no token is available, and that means that we, the administrators, should add token. But I'm not sure this method is going to get executed, and because before we expose this to the users, we must make sure that tokens have been saved in the database, isn't it? Alright, so here, this is what you want to do. The reason why I brought this random number. Now, you don't want to be using, user can add multiple tokens in here. Now, tokens here are predefined. So, the user who logs in should get a different token. So, if I log in first time, I can get a token today, a new token. The next time that I log in, I must also have a next token. You see? So, that's what we are doing. So, here, we want to get a whole list of the tokens that we have in the database. After that, we want to get the minimum and the maximum. We want to put up a random number between the minimum and the maximum. So that's the reason why we're getting this line. After you get that, you want to extract the token based on the ID that we have. Then return it to the user. So you can see, add this to your request header. API key, that is a key in here, or that's a header key, and at the token here is going to be the value. That's a very simple thing that we are doing. Okay. Now let's see. So after we have this, let's try this and see what's going to happen. Let's run this application and I'll check this out. So now that we have this, let's try this and check it out. So we're going to maintain the same string and our string and click on execute, and in here we must have created as a status code. If everything is working, you must have that. Good, so we have it. Now let's go to login. So if I click on login, I must provide the same string and now the same password. Click on execute, and I can see from here we have no token is available, and this means that we have to create a token, isn't it? So in order to do that, we want to create a simple or maybe controller, and now this controller is going to handle token creation. So in here, let's go to, and in our controller, we can create a simple controller for this. We must stop that. So I believe you are following. So let's see, controller, add new controller, and in that is an API, new one. We give it a name as tokens controller, and in that we're going to also inject our AppDB context since you want to have access to the database. We need to inject our context. After that, we need to create it. So we're going to use the post verb to create token. We add it to the database, then we save it. Now you want to have a method so we can retrieve it. But after retrieving this, anytime that you want to create a token, this token needs an ID which is going to be provided automatically, and it needs a value. Now, do we have to all the time create a value for the token? No. So I made a simple method in here which is going to return a guild. So we can copy this guild and now paste it in there. Maybe you can create guild and add something to it to form a new token for yourself, or you can even use that guild. Okay, it depends on you. Now return this as a string, and now we have it in here. So when you save this and I run this again, now this method is going to give us the new guild, whereby we can use that guild here to create a token. Save it in the database. Let's have a look. So we're going to have the token. So let's try first get tokens, and this get token should return an array. That's an empty array in here. Yes, and that's what we have in here. Now let's go and get a token so we can save it. So try this out, generate token for us. Now once you have this token, we can just grab this token, go to the tokens in here, then let's paste this. We can remove all the dots. You don't want a token to have dots in there, but you can decide to use that. So this is going to get created, saved. Now let's get another one, and we have a new, okay, this get, you want to get tokens, okay? So this is having a new one for us. Let's also grab this. Then let's go in and now paste this. Remove all the dash. execute, saved. Let's have last one. So you want to have 3 tokens for this test. Let's remove our dashes, save it, and now it is saved. So if I go to get all tokens, let's see what we have. We have 3 tokens added in here, and that's what you're going to be given to the users. Okay, so now let's go and log in. So as soon as I log in for the first time, now I have this token. Because I have this token which ends with 64. If I log in again, I have another token which ends with 054. So you can see that maybe you can later extend this. As soon as you assign user to a token to a user, and the user make another request, you can delay the old token so that the user won't have 2 tokens working. Okay, you can delay that, but it's for an advanced one. So maybe you can modify that to suit what you want. But for now, let's maintain all these 3 tokens in the database, and now we randomly pick them and assign it to the user. So you have it, add this to your request header. The key here is going to be the API key, then this is going to be your token. Okay, but for now, let's create another method in here. That's going to be the controller, and at this controller, we want to protect this. So before you can have access to this controller, you must go through authentication, okay, then log in before you can have access to that. So let's close this. Let's go to our solution, and let's create our final controller for this tutorial. So controller, then API, empty one, name it as data controller or any name at all. Now this has a very simple method that you love so much, and let's see the method. It just has a simple method that is get, and you should be authenticated before accessing this. This is very simple. Okay, so when you run this, for now everybody can have access to this controller because this is open to everybody, and we don't want to implement the default ASP.NET Core filter, that's authorization filter, to keep this because we haven't specified any authentication scheme which inherit from the JWT authentication. So we are not having that. So we don't want to implement that. You want to implement our own access token using the custom middleware. But for now, if I click on data in here, check what's going to happen. I have it. So anybody can have access to this. But it shouldn't be that. You should be authenticated before you can have access to this. So that's where the middleware should come in, or must come in, or will come in. Okay, so let's see. How do you create that? Let's create a simple folder for this as middleware. So let's add new folder, and this is middleware. So this middleware, let's create a simple as a class which we're going to name this as auth middleware, which stands for authentication middleware. So add a class of this, and I give it a name as authentication or auth middleware. Now this is what you want to do. You know, we have 3 controllers created. Login, we have authentication, that is, let's go through. You can see we have auth controller, that is for register and login. We have tokens controller. Okay, so let's say we want to make this anonymous to everybody, because before you have access to our system for registration, you don't need to be authenticated because that is the starting point of your application. So you want to open that. But you know, when you create a middleware, it intercepts all HTTP requests. So how do we do that? We can have a way to do that, and that's the reason why we are getting a session known as the request.path. Now this path contains the address of that specific request. So we can check if that request contains a session or the controller name, then we can skip it. Let's see how to do that. So in here, this has to inherit from middleware interface. You know, this is one method, one way of doing it. You can also use the request delegate. You can use both. So let's use this one. And in here, let's check if the request here contains a token or a path known as register. Let's make this as an async. Aside from that, let's see if it contains login, because all what I'm talking about here, we do not need to be authenticated. Okay, and let's say if for tokens, because let's say if admin wants to add for this tutorial, we want to make this anonymous to everybody. But you know, this shouldn't be that, because nobody can just stand up and now go in there and add tokens. You see that? But for this, we want to maintain that like this. Alright, so here we are checking that in case any of them is true, then it's telling us that the current user here or this context coming in here is coming for either registration or login or adding new tokens. We do not need to authenticate this person. So we can call the next middleware. So skip everything and then call the next middleware to execute. And that is going to work perfectly. But in case it isn't, then what can we do? We can just handle this gracefully. So we can use the else statement to do that. So you can see from here, in case it isn't, then we're using this else statement. But before we use this else statement, you can see we're having this appdb context, and that tells us that we need to include or you need to inject our database context class so we can have access to the database. Now, what are we looking up in here? We want to verify the token that you have in the context. We want to check if it corresponds to what we have in the database. If yes, then green light, go ahead. If not, then red light. You know what it means? We can return that. And now here we need to implement this EF call. Okay, but before I explain this, let me just define this simple method down here, and that is a set context. So let me put it down here so that you can get better understanding when I am explaining this. So maybe let me put it. This is the first method, and our second method will be here. Let's put it here. Okay, now let's go in there and now go through this. So now you know this already, isn't it? Now when you come here, you can see we want to get the API key, because here we told the user that I should add this header, this key to the header, and I'll assign the value. So we want to grab this key in here. Now in case it is not null, then what are you going to do? We want to verify from our database. So you can see we're using this equal. So go through all the tokens table and now check if this value here we have as an API key here has the same value to any of the records in the database. If it does, then go ahead. You can see, but that's what you're doing. So verify it is, if it is not equal to null, it means it has gotten something important record. Then go to the next one. It means it's working. But in case it isn't, then it means the user here it is not authenticated because the API key it is not found, or even if it is found, it is not genuine. It is not the one that we gave to that user when logged in. So you want to set this context. And what are this method going to do? Watch here. Now you can see we have this HTTP context from day one from here as a payload, and now this HTTP context we want to set the response status code to 401 as unauthorized. We want to set the content type as JSON, and now here we want to write async. So with this write, it must be in a JSON format, and in that we can use this problem details class from the MVC, and now here we are specifying the details as not authorized, whereby this detail has to correspond with the status code of 401. 401 means not authorized. So we have to write at least sensible details for the user to see. Something that the user reads and understand. Okay, this is the reason why I am disallowed. Okay, so this is exactly what we are doing. This is a very simple one. But anytime that I implement from this interface, there are two steps that you need to do in order to make it work. If you inherit from if you use the request delegate, you can go ahead and use it straight ahead in your program.cs. But in case you have this implemented from this interface, you need to first register the service of this and then use that. Let's go to our program.cs file, and now first of all we need to register this, and then in registration use the transient to register this class. So down here before this app built, let's register it in here, and after registering, then make sure you add this to the middleware pipeline before the controller, because you want to intercept all requests before getting to the controller, and for the controller to also point it up to all the various actions. Good. So now that we have this, what's the next thing that we can do? It's all about running this application, and I'll check it out. So let's run this and see. So now that we have an API working, this running, if I click on register, let's see, we can put a breakpoint in the middleware pipeline. And now let's see. So before we do, let's put a breakpoint in here. Let's go in there and now click on maybe login. So let's specify the default one that we use. Click on execute. Our breakpoint must be hit. Yes, it is. Now let's go and see. Now this is false. It does not contain this content or this path. Let's see login. That is true because it contains /login. So we can go ahead and that is going to log in for us to get a new token that we have in here. So let's wait and see. It's going to log in and I'm going to have our token that we need to add it to the header. Yes, we have it in here. Now if I click on the next one, it's going to also do the same thing. But let's see. If I click on data, with this, we did not specify the path. So let's say this is false, this is false, this is false. And if it is false, what's going to do, then you're going to execute this else statement. You're going to set this, the header, watch here, is going to set this. And now you're going to display that kind of 401, that's unauthorized. Click on continue. Now let's check it out. You see you have not authorized. Now the code here it is 401. Now, in order for us to authenticate this, all that you need to do here is I have this postman opened. So this postman that is open in here, I can just copy the address. So that's the data address, and let me grab this. After grabbing this one, let's go to the postman and now paste it in there. So we have it in here, and that is get method. For now, if I run this, let me delete the default header in it. If I run this, I have the same thing in here. Breakpoint must be hit, so let's remove this breakpoint. Now that we are done with the verification, continue, and now we must return what? The same code of what? Not authorized. So we are not authorized, we have 401. Now let's add the header. So in order to add the header, we can log in. And when we log in here, it's going to give us a token, and this is our token. So let's grab this. Let's grab this. Let's go to our postman in here. And now our key, do you remember? That's an API key. So API-key. That is our key. Now let's paste our token in there. It is from the header. So let's click on send. And now here it's going to give us the data because yes, the value or the header has been retrieved. And the value matches with what you have in database. Do you want to verify that? Put breakpoint in here. Put breakpoint, that's where you're going to make a search. Put breakpoint here. And now let's do it again. So click on send. This breakpoint must get hit. As soon as it got hit, let's click on this. And you can see we have the value in here, right? Now here we are going to verify it. And that's going to get it. So you can see here it is not equal to null. It means it has something in there, and that is the key from the database, and this corresponds to what you have in there as a value from this header key as API key. So with doing this, you can now create a custom middleware to authenticate your user without relying on the default authorized attribute by the ESP.NET team, whereby you need to implement the JWT token. You can implement this very simple one and cater for your application. So that's a wrap, developers. Today we've learned how to leverage custom middleware for user authentication in .NET 8 Web API. By implementing this powerful feature, you can enhance your API security and maintain a clean and efficient request pipeline. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tutorials and updates. Happy coding, and see you in the next video.